Hi, I'm Lindsay Davis. I'm here today to tell you about using Google Hangouts as a way of communicating with your students and also as a way of encouraging them to collaborate together. And also a couple of cool features in Google Hangouts, like how you can use Google Docs as you are hanging out, and then another whiteboard app for Google Hangouts called Cacoo, C-A-C-O-O, which I believe is pronounced Cacoo. So to get started, the first thing to do is to go ahead to your Google Plus account, which I have open right here. And in order to start a Hangout, you go down here to where it says Start a Hangout on the right-hand side, and so we'll click on that. One thing to keep in mind is the first time you go to a Google Plus Hangout, you have to download a plugin in order for the audio and the visual to work together. So if you're going to be doing this with your students, you should encourage them to go ahead of time and download that plugin. So in order to start a Hangout, you can start by inviting people, and so you would invite your students who are in your circle, and then you can also name the Hangout. I'm going to name mine a math lesson because I'm imagining being able to use this with my future students in order to do math tutorials with them. And I'm actually going to wait to invite anyone to the Hangout because I want to get the Hangout area ready before I actually see my students, similar to how you would get your classroom ready before your students come in for the day. So we'll go ahead and click on Hangout, and it's going to open that for us. And it says no one has been invited to the Hangout. Kind of sad at first, but we'll be getting our Hangout ready. Okay, so my computer has caught up and my Hangout is started. I'm just with myself right now, but we can see what the features are that we can use in Google Hangouts before we see our students first. There are several different things you can use in Google Hangouts. One of the cool ones is Google Drive. And so you can open the Google Drive and everyone in the Hangout will be able to view the same thing. So one thing you can do is you can create shared notes or create a shared sketch pad. Another option would be to share a brainstorming that you could possibly do with students ahead of time before the Hangout. During the Hangout, you could share notes with each other and just have kind of a notebook open in order to type back and forth with each other if you want to have a visual to share with your students. But what I really want to look at today is not how to just use the Google Drive during a Hangout, but more how to use this program called Cacoo for Hangouts. And this won't be here the first time you go to a Google Hangout. The way to get this Cacoo up and running is to click on the Add an App feature. And then there are several different apps here that you can explore. A lot of them are games that you could play with your students. There's a nice one where you can organize tasks together, similar to Digio. You can put post-it notes on to-do lists if you're collaborating with a group. If we keep scrolling down, we would find this Cacoo for Hangouts, and so you'd be able to add this to the Hangout and download it. I already have that on mine. So we'll just go and click on Cacoo for Hangouts and let that get loaded up. And Cacoo is an option where you can create screenshots of various images that you would want for your Hangout with your students. And so I already have a couple that I've created, but the first time you go you won't have any, so we can do Create New Diagram. And so as this opens up, there are several different templates that you could use. They have several different Venn diagrams that you could pick if you're wanting to do a Venn diagram with your students. Various different flowcharts you could use, flowchart templates. I'm not going to be using a template today, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. And so we pretty much just have a blank slate to be writing on with our students as they're watching. So very similar to what you could do in a face-to-face classroom. You can just go ahead and use your mouse to just write right on the whiteboard surface. I'm using a mouse right now, and you can see that it requires a little bit of practice to get your handwriting to look reasonably good. I would recommend, if you're going to use this feature, to probably use a tablet as your device that you use when you're interacting with your students in this way, because you can see that, using my mouse here to try to write is not that great. There also is an option for typing. If you click on the new text button, we can go ahead and click where we want to add some text. You could make the font a little bit bigger so your students can see it. And then we could, click and type to our students, "Welcome to the Hangout." So I've welcomed my students to the Hangout. I don't necessarily want to keep this up on the board the whole time, so we can go ahead and use the undo button to undo that typing and to undo the writing in order to get back to a nice blank whiteboard screen. One nice feature of Kaku for Google Plus is the ability to load images in onto your whiteboard screen. And so this is this drop-down menu here allows you to pick from different image sources. I'm going to be taking a screenshot. And so I'm going to take a screenshot of a worksheet that I have ready that I want to go over with my students. And so you can see that the screenshot is requesting access to my computer. I'm going to go ahead and allow it. And so then this is the kind of the window of the screenshot. I can zoom or crop how big I want things to look. It looks just about right. Let me make this a little bit bigger over here. I'm going to go ahead and capture that graph because this is, the lesson I'm wanting to go over with my students today. And then you could continue to add more as you build your whiteboard for the interaction with your students. And so I have my lesson ready, and I'm ready to go ahead and invite my students to join the Hangout with me. So the way to invite your students after you've gotten your whiteboard ready for the lesson, the way to invite your students to join your Hangout you're already in, is to head on up here and click on the Invite button. And so I just have a list of the people I'm friends with on Google+. You could have a class that you've already made into a set group. I'm just going to invite my example student to hang out. And so right now what is happening, it's my husband who's my example student. His computer is making a little telephone ringing noise, and it's saying that he's been invited to join a Hangout. So what you could do ahead of time in order sync with the with when you're going to be hanging out together would be to communicate with them through email or through your class website about what time the hangout's going to be, and they should then be ready to go on Google Plus ahead of time. So here we are. Here's me and here's my example student, and we're at the Hangout. So you can see that we can see each other, and we're going to be able to talk about our Kaku for Hangouts in just a moment. So we're both able to see the whiteboard that I created ahead of time for the Hangout, right?
Correct.
Correct, yes. So I'm going to just go through and I could explain to him basically how to graph this linear equation. It's a y = mx + b equation. So I can use the features where I can use the, basically it's like a, a whiteboard marker. And I can circle the fact that you start at the y-intercept. So I can use a little bit of color coding, which is at -1. So the students watching me could really connect that the -1 in the equation is a -1 on the y-axis of the graph. And then I can change the color of the marker I'm using to whatever color I choose. And then focus in on the fact that the slope is -5/1. And so then from our y-intercept, we would count down 5 and over 1. And then we could connect those two dots with a line in order to have our final line drawn. And so that's basically a feature where you can use the Kaku for Hangouts as a way of making your online class really similar to a face-to-face classroom when you just need to be talking with your students directly and allowing them to ask questions. Any questions, Newt?
I have none.
Thank you for coming to the Hangout.
Thank you for inviting me.
So once class is over, you want to save what you did. A couple different ways to save. I mean, you can just go ahead and save the diagram in your own Google Hangout folder. You could also export the diagram, and this would be a way of exporting it. You could decide how you want to save it. I would probably save it as a PDF file. You could also save it as a PowerPoint slide and put this possibly on your classroom website so that students could refer back to this. So we can see that there are lots of options for you to use Google Hangouts as a way to interact face-to-face with your students synchronously online. I also think that Google Hangouts is a great way for students to collaborate with each other on group projects. One way to do that is they can just chat, the traditional type of chat on the Hangouts. So you could be talking with each other, but also if you want to, have more of a text discussion, or if somebody doesn't have a microphone that's working or the audio has issues, you can, go back to chat and chat with each other that way on the side screen. Another feature of Google Hangouts that you could use or your students could use as they're collaborating is to do screen share. You can pick several different options. So this is the current screen that we're on. If I wanted them to see a different screen in the shared window, I could go ahead and switch that over. And then you can see that we can see that screen down here. So instead of now having my actual picture being shared, I'm going to have the screenshot that I just took. Another option for students as they're hanging out together, and this is especially good if you have students do group projects while they're working online, is to be able to use their Google Drive while they're hanging out. And so we can think about they could just start a new document, or they could already have a document that is started. So you could possibly have a brainstorming document where when this is open, all students are able to actually type on it at the same time. So we could say, oh, okay, so what are our ideas about the project? And we could have kind of a running record of what our ideas are about the project that we want to talk about either beforehand, so you could actually add to this before you go to the Hangout, so that you have something to kind of build your Hangout thoughts on, or you could type on this together as you are hanging out. So if you have an idea of let's do a PowerPoint presentation. And so this is one way that students could brainstorm ahead of time and then share their ideas during the Hangout. Or they could actually create the document that they're going to be turning in together. And so this is similar to what face-to-face students would do if they're all working on the same computer and getting ready to turn in, a document to their teacher. This is a way for students to interact in that same way. Another cool feature of Google Hangouts is the YouTube feature, which is a way for you and the people you're hanging out with to be able to watch YouTube videos together. Find kind of a fun option. And so we can see that basically you're able to just kind of share your favorite YouTube videos with your friends. You can play it and chat about the YouTube videos as you watch. And then Google Effects. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation on how to use Google Hangouts to communicate in a face-to-face way with your students, and also how you could use Google Hangouts as a way of encouraging collaboration among your students if you decide to assign them a group project, or if you just want to have them form study groups and have a way of discussing their, what they're having a hard time with the curriculum with other students. Thank you.